Hey guys, what's up? I'm Andy. I'm a self-taught software developer, and today's video, I'm going to be interviewing a fellow YouTuber by the name of Petru. Petru is a software developer. He's an intern at Google. He's also the co-founder of a learning platform in Romanian that teaches C++ called Wellcode. And yeah, pretty interesting guy. So go ahead and say hi to the camera.
Hello, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Your background is so different from mine, and I'm definitely interested in getting to know you as well as kind of letting some of my subscribers and people who watch my channel get to know you as well and get your perspective on things. So glad to have you here. So obviously, let everybody know, like if you could kind of tell us a little bit about your background. You know, obviously we know that you're a Google software developer intern at Google, but where did you get started with programming? How did that story go? And anything else that you think maybe people should know about you?
Mhm. Okay, so I come from Romania, which is a country in Eastern Europe. It's pretty different cultural-wise compared to the US. So one big difference is that we get to choose our main area of focus when we start high school. So before the ninth grade, which is the first one of high school, you need to choose which kind of specialization you want to go into. So if you have good grades, you pretty much have only two options. You either go into math and computer science. That doesn't mean you won't learn other subjects, but that's the main area of focus. Or you go into STEM sciences, which basically translates that you being a doctor. And because in Romania there wasn't much industry going on, you don't have a lot of options. I've chose to do computer science. That was the place where the kids with the best grades went. I didn't have best grades, but I was among the ones who could get into that. So I've chosen to do computer science then, and I was very lucky. And in the first grade of high school, I qualified to the National Olympiad in Informatics, which is a coding contest, and you have kids from all around the country compete for a good place. And I got 0 points in the first day, and I think I was at the at the half of the rankings, but it helped me a lot in terms of meeting new people, meeting like-minded people who had the same passion for learning how to write code. And afterwards, I qualified each year, and most of the people who do coding contests and Olympiads end up with doing internships at the big names in tech. So I followed up with internships, and then I wanted to found Wellcode because a lot of times I had to learn things on my own. So before qualifying to the national phase, I used to bang my head against the walls, and I couldn't understand a lot of things, and I didn't know what were the places to learn from. And because of that, I wanted to share everything. So first I started with tutoring kids, helping them become better. And after they started getting good results, getting medals at national and international contests, the demand went so high that I couldn't do that myself. I couldn't teach everyone who wanted to. So then I founded Wellcode in order to give everyone the chance to learn computer science, to develop his way of thinking. And we are now working on launching it internationally.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I was the same way when I was learning how to code. It's very frustrating to find resources that are interesting, that aren't just dry textbooks. And I always thought to myself, once I learn it, I would really love to make something or create something that would be fun to learn and not boring. So you actually did it. That's really cool. Question though about your sort of getting started into programming. It sounds like you did it from you're very pragmatic. Like you chose it because it was, it was a good opportunity for you, for your future career, for your future success. But it also sounds to me like you became very passionate about it. So talk to me a little bit about when, you kind of learned that you actually like doing it as well as it being a good opportunity.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So, my parents are both computer scientists. Even though I was very independent, so I always told them I won't end up with a job like you, sitting every day in front of a computer. They are teachers, so they don't sit as much in front of a computer as I do now, and that's a fun thing. But back then in the ninth grade, I had to choose. Like I could be a good student in terms of getting good grades in every subject, but a lot of the subjects involved memorizing. So the only two subjects were math and computer science, which involved thinking, but I was terrible at math. Well, not terrible, but I wasn't good. And I chosen to focus only on computer science and becoming as good as possible. I wasn't passionate at that time. It was just my only option. But as I was practicing, as I was putting all my effort into that, I started becoming better, and then started getting good results first at school, and that encouraged me to learn more at the contest, and afterwards it's just like a spiral, which everything encouraged me to work more. But I still remember the moment I understood how to compute the Fibonacci sequence with I didn't know how to use arrays back then. And at some point it just made sense. And I think that was the point where I started liking it, and I got the confidence that I can understand more complicated things. And even right now, I don't see it as a big passion. I'm passionate about learning in general, about understanding things. So right now I see it as a tool. So I need to build something. I need to build a platform to help other people learn. I just use code, and I'm more passionate about the results. So back then I was passionate about getting good results in contests, making my parents happy. Then was passionate about getting an internship and traveling to the US, and I think that's how I am right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. And yeah, that's really interesting. You say programming language is a tool, because I've started to think about it more and more like that. Like it's not, it's when you're learning it, it's sort of this abstract concept, right? It's like a language. It's like a spoken language, and you're trying to learn the rules of it. But really, a programming language is useless unless you build something that's useful, right? I mean, it's a tool to get you to where you want to go. So glad to hear someone else talk about it like that.
Yeah.
So you've had a couple internships, let's put it that way, right? Like I was looking at your resume, you've had 3 internships with some of the major companies. Could you talk a little bit about that and what your experience has been doing internships?
Yeah, sure. So my first internship was at Bosch in the Cluj office. Cluj is the second largest city in Romania. And it's very different compared to the usual internship. So my position was in research and development. So I had to implement an algorithm, a research algorithm for finding the distance from a car to the objects in front of it. And this can be used for detections of obstacles and avoiding accidents. And the reason I did my first internship back in Romania was because I failed all the interviews for the other companies. And the first one was very interesting because it was more about thinking, about understanding complicated concepts and trying to come up with optimizations. And then I was very well prepared next year, and I got offers for all the companies I applied to. And I've learned a lot of things. So before that, my project, like for the first internship, was isolated. I think I wrote like maybe 1,000 lines of code. I can't remember exactly. And every project at college was just very small compared to the scale of Facebook, where I did my first internship. And I remember having the first task to implement a feature on top of the Facebook Android app. And the code was immense. I couldn't imagine that an app could become so complex, and I didn't understand anything. And I thought that, first of all, I thought in the regular way. So in order to be able to contribute to this thing, to this monster, I need to understand every single piece of code which is inside, which wasn't the case. Actually, I found out that I just need to understand the smallest amount possible in order to be able to do my job. And that was the first very different thing compared to what I was used to. The second one was communicating with my manager, so finding the right balance between not stressing him with too many questions and also not sitting silent and trying to reinvent the wheel or to understand how some very complicated system works there. And it was awesome being able to implement something which is used by a lot of people, having an impact.
Yeah.
That was my experience put into a short story.
So it's really interesting that you said that you mentioned about asking questions and not sitting at your desk trying to reinvent the wheel, because I know for myself, going into my first job, it's like you don't know what the threshold is. You don't know whether you should ask a lot of questions and risk annoying your manager, or even worse, sort of displaying your ignorance. So, like, did you, like, was that a big struggle for you? Like, how did you sort of toe that line between not sitting at your desk and also not asking a million questions?
Yeah, so I was very lucky with, I had a great first manager who told me how to do it and how to figure out things on my own. Usually the best way to do it is just wait for your first one-on-one, at least for internship. So you get one every week, and you can just ask my manager, am I asking enough questions? Am I asking too many questions? And if he tells you that you're asking too many questions, you can ask for, how can I improve on that? What do you think there was the questions which I was asking too often? How can I rephrase them better? Or if he's telling you that you're not asking enough questions, you can go ahead and ask more and just calibrate until you're at the right point.
Gotcha. That makes sense. With your experience of having so many internships, what sort of insights can you give to anyone watching this who might be interested in getting an internship as their first, sort of dive into the field? What can you tell them? What's the best way to sort of, what's the best way to increase their odds to get an internship opportunity?
Mm-hmm. I don't know how does it work for people in the US, but in order to get a visa for the internship, you need to be a student, so you need to be enrolled in college. So first of all, make sure you're enrolled in some college. Then you need to work on your resume in order to make sure that the good companies will accept you. One thing which helped you a lot, and most of the recruiters I've heard talk a lot about coding contests and just participating in programming related contests, even like hackathons, because those will set you apart compared to the other candidates. So if we have like two almost identical candidates and the only difference is that one of them went to one single coding contest where he got 0 points, he was on the last place, he will still be seen better than the other one. And then coding contests help you a lot also for interviews, because the problems there are similar to the ones at the interviews, and most of the times they are harder. So I totally recommend participating in contests on HackerRank, on Codeforces. You can ask more in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer your questions regarding coding contests. And another very important thing is learn how to explain your solutions and learn how to handle your stress. So when I did my first interviews, I was very stressed. I failed all of them. And then I started working more with kids, doing more private tutoring. And because I was teaching them how to solve problems, my ability to explain solutions increased a lot, and it helped me a lot for interviews, because you want to make sure that the interviewer understands you. And if he needs to ask a lot of follow-up questions, you'll waste a lot of times, because usually interviews are 45 minutes long. Maybe the interviewer will be late 5 minutes. You also want to give him time to present what he's doing for the company. You also want to have some time at the end to ask some questions about the company. So you need to be really fast. And if he starts asking a lot of follow-up questions, you have to be a really fast coder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing is be prepared. So be sure that you search on Google for, let's say, Google interview questions for internship. And I got advices from a friend, very very valuable advices, like try to be prepared about the last part of the interview. So make sure you have some questions prepared for him, because if at the end you're stressed and you don't ask him anything about his project or about his company, he may see you as not caring about the company, being a whatever. And if you apply at a big company, they have tens of thousands of people applying for the same internship, and they will think, oh, maybe we want someone who's enthusiastic about working at Google, even if he's not that technically good, because he'll be more motivated to become better. And the second one is be prepared. Be prepared about open-ended questions. So if he asks you about your personal project, have some ideas already prepared, because you'll be very stressed. Or at least for me, I had like 4 or 5 companies, big companies, to which I could apply for. So basically I had 4 chances, and if not, I need to spend one summer back home without improving myself. So I wanted to make sure that I can handle every possible scenario of the interview.
Yeah, to me, the gist of what you just said, it really comes down to preparation, and it comes down to preparation, from like your skills. You need to be prepared to sort of show off your skills. You need to be prepared to be interviewed. You need to be prepared to answer technical questions, and then you need to be prepared from just a like general job interview perspective. Which, the one thing I've always learned from job interviews is you definitely want to ask questions about the company, because if you don't ask questions about the company, it's like, I can imagine for Google, they probably would expect, like, I mean, everybody asks questions about Google if they're somewhat interested in the job. So it seems like preparation is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and another very important thing is that you want to be 1 or 2 levels above, just to make sure that you're getting accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for something like Google, it's like you gotta bring
Yeah.
your A game.
Yeah, and right now, probably it sounds very hard for people, but it's not that hard. You'll see that after you get the interview, you'll see everything, looking back, that it wasn't that hard. You just need the determination. And after you get the small successes, it will get easier. And if you like learning and if you like improving yourself, you'll enjoy the whole process. So just focus on what you're learning.
All right, so let's say that someone watching this eventually gets an internship at a Google, or even just like just a good company. What would you tell them is healthy expectations for them? Like, what are they going to learn? What type of developer are they going to come out in the end? Any insight there would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. So the expectations should be to learn a lot. So I remember my first private tutor. He was a college student. He used to do coding contests, and after the Olympiad, like after the competitional season ended, I asked him, "Oh, should I focus on doing some web development? Should I try learning new programming languages?" And he told me that I shouldn't need to worry about it, because even after 2 years of college, when he got his first internship, he felt like everything he knew before was so little compared to what he learned during his internship. He did an internship with Microsoft. So the expectation should be to double your skills or to make them even 10x. So to increase their skills and to learn a lot. And if you're at an internship where you feel that you're not learning anything, then you should be a bit worried. And I don't think you'll be able to call yourself a very good developer after one internship. I feel like I needed 2 internships in order to just be able to implement the things I wanted to do. And still right now, I just try to learn the smallest amount of things in order to be able to do my job. You won't become an expert after doing internships. You'll become good. if you do an internship with a good company, you'll definitely be very good. But computer programming is a very dynamic field, so you can't call yourself a senior developer. Or I feel it's best not to use labels. Maybe only when you apply for jobs, you want to apply for senior jobs or for ones which pay well. But in order to be at that level, I feel like you need to do 2 or 3 years of really hard and focused work in order to become really good. But yeah, probably it sounds strange because I always talk about being good, and after the internships you are good. So there are multiple levels. You can be good as you understand the basics of code, and that's good compared to someone who doesn't know how to write code. But then the scale changes, and the basic level is the one you are at, and the good level is the next thing. And if you want to become a good, successful programmer, I think you need to always try to become the next good.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like, you keep leveling up, like you keep moving up as a developer, but there's really no end to it. Like you never reach the promised land. There's always some sort of subtle programming paradigm that you could learn, and more advanced topics that you can sort of always grow into. But I think it's tough for somebody who's going into an internship, or even if it's your first job, and sort of assessing like how much am I going to grow in 6 months or even 3 months. It's really hard to say, but it really depends on the person. Like if you're going to Facebook and you have 3 months or 6 months to learn, like if you really apply yourself versus if you think that you're going to go in there and people are going to just like teach you everything, that's two totally different mindsets. And you're going to come out a completely different skill set, I can imagine.
Yeah, you need to learn as much as possible and be like very proactive. And speaking of promised land, I feel like after you get your first programming job, you are already in the promised land compared to most of the jobs around the world. Like you have good job security, you earn better than most of the people. But yeah, what else can you wish for? Like the next level are Ferraris and nice houses and everything.
Yeah, because like for me, it was like, oh, I get to work on the coding 8 hours a day, and I get paid for it, and I get to like learn all these new technologies. Like, yeah, sign me up. Like, I totally agree. Agree. What do you think? Somebody maybe is watching this right now, and they're thinking to themselves, maybe they've been sitting on the fence about programming for a while, and they want to get into it. What is your recommendation? What should be their approach to learning? Maybe what programming languages they should learn? What do you think?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it depends on the financial pressure you got. So if you need to earn a bit better, if you wanna switch domains, then you need to move fast. So I'd recommend just going for JavaScript, just do some personal projects, put them on your resume, make it look as good as possible, and start applying. Most important, get a mentor, get a friend, get anyone who can answer your question and who can tell you what you need to expect from an interview. You have Andy, who has great content. Watch his content and come and ask us questions if you don't find any mentor, even though I'm sure you'll be able to find a real person who can meet for beer. And yeah, just be prepared for interviews. But if you are not pressured by time, if you're maybe still in school, focus on understanding the principles really good, going a bit in depth. I'd recommend doing C++. C++ doesn't have all the safety mechanisms enabled by default, and compared to other languages who prevent you from doing some errors. And you might think, oh, that's counterintuitive. I thought if something prevents you from doing errors, it's better. But you can't have safety mechanisms for every possible mistake that you're gonna do. So it's better just to develop a way of thinking which prevents you from making mistakes right from the beginning. And that's why what C++ is good for when you're learning it. So in the beginning, you will make a lot of mistakes. It will be tougher, but you'll get that way of thinking. And in order to make a comparison, you can think about learning how to play football. You can always practice passing without without an opposite team, without other players coming to attack you. And yeah, maybe you'll be decent at passing, but in a real game, you won't be able to do anything. So you need that practice with the opposite players. So you need practice with having errors, because basically programming is about moving data around between different computers. We have now internet. So there are all kind of unexpected errors who may appear, and if you understand the principles, if you train yourself in C++, you can master that way of thinking. And afterwards, try to expand, try to learn algorithms, data structures, develop your way of thinking more, and also try different paradigms of programming, maybe scripting languages like Python, Perl, or Ruby. Try web development, and try maybe functional programming such as Haskell or Lisp. For me, Lisp was a big breakthrough. It made me a way better coder. Yeah, and then you can apply for interviews, also go to coding contests. That was my experience, and that was what helped me.
Nice, yeah. And it's interesting too because I feel like if anyone had ever asked me, should you do C++ as a first language, I would always have said no, because that was the advice I was given. And the reason being was that it's a little bit more overhead. It's a little bit more moving parts to it. But I feel like I've now that I'm a more experienced developer and I know a little bit more about C++, and it seems like it's such a great programming language to begin with because of all the reasons that you mentioned. But it also is not, it seems like it's going to be a little bit more deliberate and slower. But like you're saying, if you really need to get a job right now, it seems like something like JavaScript or Python or something that can get you that sort of quick web development job is the way to go. But it definitely, it depends. There's no right answer.
Yeah. Right now you can do back end and front end with JavaScript, and you can do that with any other language. So I feel it's great for doing things fast.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff. What what do you think? This is a question I get asked so much. It's such a tough question. And so many people experience it. It's about imposter syndrome. There's people out there who are either going to be looking for a job soon, or maybe they're at their first job and they feel like they are not up to the snuff. They feel like there's all these talented people around them and they're just not that good. And it really, it can cripple a lot of people and make them just not want to work. What is your advice? What is your experience in having imposter syndrome, and what's your advice to kind of get over it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually I was on the other side. I trusted myself a bit too much before my internship with Facebook. I was used to getting prizes at contests and being among the best. But at the big company, you're surrounded by people who were among the best. So I wasn't among the best anymore. But my co-founder at Wellcode, Bianca, she dealt a lot with that. That's why we work so well together, because we're kind of opposite. And you can imagine your brain as being a gasoline tank for a car. And each thought consumes a bit of that gasoline. And if you're already in a software development job, then you probably want to advance, you want to get paid better, you want to have a higher salary. So why waste your time overthinking things? Why waste your time thinking, am I good enough at this job? Was I lucky at the interview? Well, it doesn't matter. A lot of people get lucky. A lot of people have bad luck in the interviews and don't get the job. But you're there. You have a decision to make. Will you just resign from the job and try to do interviews again? Or if you're not going to do that, then just be fully committed to your tasks. Don't start overthinking. There are so many things to learn. On the other hand, if you're having imposter syndrome and you're thinking, am I smart enough to start learning how to write code? You just need to realize that your life is in your hands, and every decision you make will impact your life. There are a lot of people who were not smart in the beginning. I consider myself as being the best example. I was terrible at math. At IQ test, I wasn't good compared to my colleagues. I think I had 5 people in my class who were better than me in the beginning, who already knew how to write code, and I beat them all at the Olympiad. If you're focusing on complaining and just finding excuses to not do things, then you'll probably end up just not doing it. And it's better just to focus all your energy on accomplishing your purpose. Like, yeah, programming is hard. No one will give you free money to not do anything, but um, everything, the job security, the working on interesting things, having an impact on other people comes with a price. You can't expect just people coming at you and giving you free stuff. So instead of focusing on imposter syndrome and why you're not good enough, just go ahead and try your luck. Why just overthinking it when there are so many real problems you can think about and try solving? Like, even the smallest contribution still helps a lot. There are a lot of people who I saw in the contest who are not training a lot, who didn't get good results, but in the end they got internships at Google just because they applied and they trained for the interviews. There, maybe they memorized the interview questions, but who cares? The point, it's about the results. It's like in football. The only thing that matters at the end is the final score. Nobody cares that the other team was better but they didn't win.
So I think it's safe to say that what you're saying is use that sort of energy, right? That like anxiety energy towards something good, meaning take that energy, that nervousness, and put it towards solving a problem, becoming better, not sitting around dwelling about, am I good enough? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to make you a better coder. Sitting around and thinking about how it just doesn't help.
You shouldn't think about that, like if you're good or not. Like, yeah, if you're not good, go to work and make yourself be good. If you're good, just apply or become better.
Yeah, I think that's something that will probably help people. I think because, like I said, it's a question everybody asks, but I think that's some good words of advice right there. All right, well, that wraps up things. Petru, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm going to include a link in the description below to your not only your channel but your learning application, which is right now in Romanian, but you're moving it to English at some point in the future. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're working on launching it probably in October.
In October, awesome. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'll have to give it a whirl and see, get my C++ skills up. So
yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and I hope you'll continue release good content and encourage the people to just go and do what they are supposed to do.
for sure, for sure. I think we'll do another collaboration at some point. So
Okay, yeah.
all right, thanks guys. Well, go ahead and as always, if you like the video, leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe below. Click the bell if you want to get notifications. Other than that, we are out. Peace out, guys.